Good morning, Hank. It's Tuesday. Today's video is like the human spinal column. It comes to you in 5 parts. Part 1, the cervical. Hank, I'm so sorry that you're in so much pain, but your video about pain made me wonder, does pain have a meaning? I mean, I do understand that pain has a purpose, obviously, like it discourages us from touching hot stoves and etc., but like, does it have a transcendent or metaphysical meaning? I have long believed that no, there is no non-biological point to pain. It is not ennobling or transcendent, it simply is. And also that the attempts to give pain a meaning can be really harmful to people living in pain. In fact, that's one of the themes of my book, The Fault in Our Stars. But your video reminded me that sometimes people do find meaning in pain, and that pain can help us to be more empathetic, or at least to really believe other people when they tell us of their pain. So maybe it's not so simple. Now, I haven't fully formed my thoughts on this, and don't expect that I ever will, but my current thinking is that telling other people that their pain has meaning is deeply unhelpful, but finding meaning in your own pain can be perfectly fine, and at times very helpful. So anyway, your video about pain changed the way I think about this stuff. Thank you for making it, even though I know it was very difficult to shoot and edit. Part 2, the thoracic. Hank, it turns out the reason you're in so much pain is that you have shingles again, which sucks. Shingles is a famously painful disease, but the good news is that within a generation or two, it may no longer exist because it is now vaccine preventable, which is awesome, but the story of how the shingles vaccine came to exist is fascinating and a little dark, and like everything, involves tuberculosis. So there's this pharma company, GlaxoSmithKline, that faced a very difficult choice several years ago. They had 2 promising vaccine candidates that shared an adjuvant, like the thing that makes the vaccine more effective, and so they could only really pursue one of those vaccines. Now, one of the vaccine candidates was for shingles, the other was for tuberculosis. This led to a strange situation where GSK had to decide which of these vaccine candidates to pursue, and they inevitably chose shingles, even though tuberculosis causes more death, because shingles is a much bigger problem in rich countries, whereas tuberculosis is mostly a problem in poor countries. That means the so-called market for the shingles vaccine was much bigger, and indeed, the shingles vaccine has been a huge hit, generating over $14 billion for GSK. Now, this is a very complicated story because shingles, as you are currently experiencing, is terrible, and I am very glad that there is now a vaccine to prevent it. And GSK did a great job of creating that vaccine, but pursuing it has meant that the tuberculosis vaccine has been much further behind, and in the intervening years when we might have had a tuberculosis vaccine, instead we haven't had one, and many millions of people have died. Anyway, there's a link in the doobly-doo to a fascinating article that explores the relationship between the shingles vaccine and the tuberculosis vaccine. It really shines a light on the strange incentives that are involved when it comes to creating vaccines for diseases that affect people in poor countries, especially when they come into conflict with health problems that mostly affect people in wealthy countries where governments can afford to spend lots of money on vaccines. All right, part 3, the lumbar. Hank, for the last couple of years, I've been live streaming over at John's channel to raise money for AFC Wimbledon's playing fund, and this has been an incredibly successful project. We've helped pay for 3 players, one of whom, Marcus Brown, is currently AFC Wimbledon's top scorer in their surprisingly great year so far. For those who don't know, AFC Wimbledon is a third-tier English soccer team who wear DFTBA on the back of their shorts in the liminal space between left thigh and buttocks, because when you are in love, you do strange things, and I am in love with AFC Wimbledon. Anyway, I'm currently live streaming myself playing the video game Red Dead Redemption 2, except I play it with my own moral compass, which has proved pretty challenging so far, but I'm finding a way. I just want to be a beloved member of the gang. Also, I'm live streaming something else that I can't really talk about yet. If you want to follow along, there is a link in the doobly-doo. Part 4, the sacral. Hank, did you know that the sacral vertebra and the sacrum bone are called that because 2,000 years ago, Galen called it the sacred bone? Galen, by the way, recommended fresh air and sea voyages as treatments for tuberculosis, which would remain standard treatments for consumption for like 2 millennia, even though they were not particularly effective. Anyway, Galen called it the sacred bone, perhaps because it was involved in sacrifice, or maybe because of its proximity to genitalia, which were seen as sacred. But our upper butts are sacred, Hank. Or as you would argue, our upper legs, since you remain committed to the insane idea that butt is legs. Part 5, the cockageel. So World Tuberculosis Day is coming up on March 24th. And yes, there is a World Tuberculosis Day. There's a World Everything Day. This is an opportunity to remind people that the world's deadliest infectious disease is both curable and preventable. And our coffee and tea company, Keats and Co, is celebrating this year with a special giveaway, but kind of an unusual usual giveaway. Keats and Co makes the world's best coffee and tea, delivers it to your home, and then donates 100% of the profit to fight tuberculosis in impoverished communities. And we named the company for John Keats because he died of tuberculosis at the age of 25. My favorite Keats poem is Ode on a Grecian Urn. And if you're subscribed before World TB Day, you will receive a poem of me reading Ode on a Grecian Urn and talking about why I think it's so important and poignant. It's kind of a poem about how even though all humans die, art lasts forever, which I don't actually agree with because art also dies like everything. But, you know, Keats was 23 when he wrote it, so you can forgive him. It's a beautiful poem. And for me, it's a reminder of what's impermanent, which is everything, including, Hank, hopefully soon, your pain. I'm so sorry that you're going through it. I wish you a speedy recovery. Hank, I'll see you on Friday.